everyone knows that breathing is vital to the health of our bodies, but do you know the effects that oxygen can really have? I have a wonderful friend here. His name is Bill, and he's from Oxygen Cures. Tell me a little bit about what you've been doing to help people.
I stumbled upon a very unusual way of breathing 50 years ago in diving in the Caribbean. And we didn't think much of it in our 20s, but 50 years later, when I had a heart problem and high cholesterol, I decided to try it again when my heart condition was getting fairly serious. And 8 years ago, on the first day that I started this, my heart condition disappeared, and it's been gone for 8 years. So extra oxygen affects the body from the head to the toe. As one of your producers has experienced, as soon as she started this back in around November, December, in about 3 weeks, a very serious disorder that she has was starting to improve. And recently she's gone to one of her specialists and they've confirmed the findings. And her particular disorder is not even curable, I don't think. It's only temporarily helped by surgery. In this case, oxygen has appeared to cure her condition.
Wow, and I know this condition in itself, it's a detached retina issue. She has dealt with a history of eye issues.
She's the second lady that's had that results. And from what I can find online, that's a medical impossibility. But I run across 2 or 3 or 4 medical impossibilities every month.
All right, so
8 years.
When we're talking about oxygen curing the body, we all know that, obviously we need to breathe to survive, but so this technique, is it bringing more oxygen into our system? How does it work?
Well, let me jump into that real quick, Mandy, because that's the most important part of all. And what I'd like to show you is that you and everybody in the studio and everybody on the planet is breathing incorrectly. Take a deep breath with your nose and nothing else. What you're demonstrating is that you're raising your shoulders. Everybody on the planet, hardly without an exception, raises their shoulders because they're doing what's called shallow breathing. I'll show you something that's kind of silly, but it demonstrates what I'm talking about here. If I put my hand on my stomach, I don't have to move my shoulders or my upper chest. I just have to take a breath and watch this hand. Now that comes from, I didn't know that till probably 4 years after I started. So as soon as you start doing this with the little trick of using velocity, you're getting air down into your lower lungs. Physiologically and scientifically, the lower lungs give you not only 7 times more oxygen, but the lower lungs reduce 15 times the bacteria, the virus, the fungi, the chemicals out of your system. It's impossible for you to get your air down to your lower lungs as you just demonstrated. Yes. Even if you had a CPAP machine or a ventilator, you can't do a fraction of what I want to show you right now. And your producer proved the point I want to make to you, because instantly when she started this in November or December, she jumped from a 93 to 98, instantly.
So just a second here, Bill, that number that you just said, what is that?
That's your oxygen level.
Okay.
Now you just demonstrated that you're 96.5, but it may be...
Yes, I have a little oxygen meter here, and just before we started filming, I took my oxygen reading, and I'm at about a 96.
Yeah, well, this has to be done over and over and over to really get very accurate readings, but that's not bad. Now you may be getting what I call a false positive, because if you're on any medication, it seems like almost the first effect of medication is to get the blood flowing, not actually flowing, but to stop the platelets from sticking together. When doctors do that through medication, the blood does flow better, but the medication isn't making the blood healthier. Now there's my demonstration of healthy blood. My hands are very pink and soft looking, and I'm 76, and in a couple months I'm 77.
They look very nice and warm and healthy. Well, and typically what you'd see in somebody who's within your age range, their hands look very cold and frail, and the skin looks very thin.
Yeah, and I've got a demonstration of that on Oxygen Cures of a fellow that came into my office about 1.5 years ago, and his hand was practically purple, And 25 minutes later, his wife reached over to touch his hand, and she jumped because she said his hand was warm in 25 minutes. And that was 4 or 5 breaths. But Mandy, I want to demonstrate to your audience that this gives you oxygen many, many times faster, I believe, than anything else on the planet.
So you mentioned velocity. So is it that we're breathing in faster?
Yes and no. Now, you can't effectively take a deep breath as you demonstrated. Your shoulders are helping you breathe because your body needs oxygen. There's some connection between the brain and the shoulders. So at the age of 3, when we stop breathing through our lower lungs as a baby, and everybody knows all the babies breathe through the lower lungs.
Yeah, because you watch a baby breathe and their tummy rises and falls just like you demonstrated.
Right, exactly. And by the time they're 3 years old, they discover it's easier to go, and you're not getting any air. So the fault of the CPAP and the ventilators is that, and even now in fighting COVID-19, I think this is great protection. I don't know if it's absolute protection, but I've had no colds, no flu, no viruses, no headaches, no constipation.
Beautiful.
I've had no pain. I've had nothing for 8 years, including my heart condition that I was back and forth to the doctor, the hospital. I had the electric paddles 8 years ago, which is what inspired me to start this. I've been back for nothing for 8 years.
That's fantastic.
Complexion is going to change. Your fingernails and your toenails are going to grow faster. Your hair is going to grow faster. And every part of your body is going to improve, including your head and your thinking, in a matter of hours or minutes or days, whichever.
I love it. So how do we get started with this?
Let's get into the breathing. You can't breathe as you demonstrated. Now put your thumb underneath your nose, and your thumb shapes to the nose. That see this part right there? Can you see that?
Yeah.
It shapes to the bottom of the nose. Put that under your nose. Put your right hand now on the upper stomach area. Take the same nose breath you took before. Go ahead. Do you feel something lower down?
Oh yes.
Okay. Now
I felt my lower waist and my lower ribs expand more.
Right. Your shoulders didn't move half of what they did on the first breath without your thumb. When you increase the velocity with your thumb, it's like a garden hose. All of a sudden, you don't have 4 or 5 feet, you got 30 or 40 feet, and proportionally, this works out about the same way. You just doubled or tripled your oxygen intake 2 or 3 times more than any breath you've taken since you're 3 years old.
Wow.
The effects I'm getting in the last 8 years are accomplished only by that velocity, holding your breath, and daily practice. I couldn't do it with 30 years, actually 40 years of jogging and squash. I still had my heart condition. The day I started this, my heart condition stopped on that day, and now I'm 1 out of 5 people that have heart conditions. 4 of them are controlled with more oxygen. Their heart rates are steady. The 5th person, and he has to have a fob that he carries in his pocket to call the medics every time his heart goes wildly out of control. He's about 80% better. He's not 100%, but he's 80%. So let's jump from velocity now, and we're going to make it a little bit stronger, Mandy. Keep this finger up here. Keep the right hand here. Blow out for 2 seconds, and then do the same breath again. Good. Now take the deep breath in. Go ahead. Now you probably found that time that the air went much deeper.
Yes.
You emptied a little bit of the stale air out of your lungs, and you got a deeper breath. Are you feeling anything yet in your head?
I'm feeling like I've got a rush to my head.
Okay, well, that's oxygen. And the oxygen is opening up all your arteries, your veins, your capillaries, every tiny thing in your body, and it's going to make you think better. The next thing is holding your breath. That's the second component to it. By holding your breath, you're forcing the blood to absorb more. But I suggest to people, just start at 5 seconds. Start nice and easy like you did. You're also going to find you're going to have more volume in a matter of minutes or an hour or 2. By tomorrow, you're going to feel the intake is much more than today. And standing up is double what it is sitting down, because you're allowing your lower diaphragm to start to move.
So with this breathing technique, how often and how many times in a row should somebody be doing this in a given day?
A minimum of 25 a day, 8 in the morning, 8 in the afternoon, 8 in the evening. The effort that you have to put into this is just about zero because this doesn't take time. So I do 12 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, 12 at night, and I don't go to bed until I have my 36 done.
I love it. Now, I have one last quick question for you. When you take this breath in, how long are you supposed to hold it?
That depends on the person. So I want to start you off at something very mild because I once had a 325-pound guy that fainted on the first breath. I learned from that about 3 or 4 years ago that I have to start a person very slowly and watch carefully what they're doing. Only go for 5 seconds right now. I do 17 seconds on every breath, but I found over the years that about 15 or 17 seconds, you've used up all of the oxygen that's gone into the lower lungs. You know, a crazy thing that makes this work that I found about 3 or 4 years ago by a professor in California who's still alive. He's 92 years old. The reason why it works is that the heart pumps blood down many times easier than it pumps up. So that's
gravity.
That's right. Any mechanic that you talk to about that, they say, of course it does. So all the blood is down in the lower lungs waiting for our oxygen, and we don't give it any oxygen. When you give it the oxygen, it takes a certain number of seconds for the blood to absorb the oxygen. And I think that anything past 15 or 17 seconds is almost useless because it's already absorbed all that oxygen. So I would warn all the audience, don't do anything crazy about this. Do what Mandy's doing. Start very slowly. See how it affects your body. If your blood circulation is very bad, it's not capable of handling oxygen very quickly. It has to get used to it. The atmosphere is only 21% oxygen now, where it used to be 35 thousands of years ago. And add on top of that we breathe through our shoulders, we're down to around 16 or 17% oxygen intake, and we should be up around the 35.
So no wonder, just based on that alone, no wonder people have caffeine dependencies and sleep issues and brain fog.
And this takes all of it away. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, constipation, digestion problems, headaches, pain, you name it. What we're doing sitting down here is only 50%, especially when you're beginning and not knowing what you're doing. After you get to this, the volume starts to come. So here's my volume. So I have volume at 76 years of age that most 20-year-olds don't have. And that's
incredible.
Just using your lungs. So one of the side benefits to this is instant improvement to your lungs. There's a 7-minute video on my Oxygen Cures website about a fellow in England that was on the ship that was quarantined, the Princess ship. He was almost dying. He did a 30-minute video. I cut it down to 7. It's a remarkable video on how he says he cured his COVID-19 with this type of breathing. He's demonstrating, and he's talking about a type of breathing that I did 50 years ago. I think this type of breathing that I'm doing now 50 years later is many times improved over what he was doing, but he still raised his oxygen, coincidentally, the same as your producer did, from 93 to 98. And instantly his body started to recover.
That technique is so simple, and already, I've been feeling fatigued this morning. It's been a crazy week, and already I feel just those couple of breaths I took, I'm feeling clearer headed.
Oh, Mandy, I can't describe what's going to happen to you. You don't mind?
I'm excited to do this.
You mind me saying that you're going to lose 3 or 4 pounds every month without trying?
Bill, you're my new favorite person.
Without trying. And your complexion is going to be pinker. Your hands are going to be pinker tonight.
That's incredible. I'm going to start regular breathing, and I'm going to let you know my results with it.
Wonderful.
For more information, I want you to head on over to our website at marcandmandy.com.
Thanks for watching The Marc and Mandy Show. Like our video by clicking below and subscribe to our YouTube channel.